Canes get the win in overtime. They score. Brian Wu on the 5 on ABC. That series is tied up at 1. Mariners and Tigers from Detroit at 3:40. Brian Wu on the bump for CBC. That series is tied up at 1. Mariners and Tigers from Detroit at 3:40. Brian Wu on the bump for Seattle. And the PGA Tour, JT Poston, your leader at 9 under par at the Memorial.
Live from the Coors Light Studios, it's the Rip City Drive with Chad Doing. Coors Light, cold as the Rockies. Please drink responsibly.
Draw, but it'll deflect right to Frederick Anderson. He'll settle it down. Canes cleared out. Will Carrier into the zone. Drop Jankowski. He scores! Mark Jankowski has tied it up here, and the Canes have come back from 2 down. Oh, his first of the postseason, and Mark Jankowski has got this building in a frenzy. Svechnikov with it. Back here. Gostisbehere, he scores! There's a ghost sighting on the power play, and it puts Carolina up 3-2. Give it to the captain. He directs it home. Along the right wing boards. Back up top, it's Gostisbehere. Send it cross shot. Game over! Seth Jarvis wins it in overtime!
Famous one-timer in Hurricanes history.
Strap in. The Rip City Drive with Chad Doing starts now.
Game last. Boy, how great was that game last night with Carolina and Las Vegas. I watched the entire game. The Hurricanes were lifeless through 2.5 periods. They trailed 2-0 going into the third. And 10 minutes in, they looked like they were dead on arrival. And Vegas was in full control. And then all of a sudden, they caught fire. They scored 2 goals in just a few minutes to tie the game at 2. They put a third goal up in a power play situation after Vegas got hit with delay of game. And then Vegas somehow got a miraculous goal in traffic to force overtime. And the Canes once again took advantage of a power play situation and got the win. That was awesome. Even if you're not a hockey fan or a fringe fan, I'm telling you, you can sit back and enjoy the Stanley Cup Finals. Those two teams played really hard, and Carolina in desperation mode, knowing if they go down 2-0 after dropping back-to-back home games with home ice advantage, you're dead. Just like the Spurs tonight, they know if they want to win this series and have an opportunity to compete for the finals, they cannot lose tonight. If they do, the series, for all intents and purposes, is over. Done. DEAD. So we'll see how things shake out. But that was a lot of fun. Nice to be able to dive into something different and enjoy it. And tonight we get the NBA Finals with Game 2 from San Antonio. And all of the matchups that we talked about before the series, where the Knicks had an advantage, where it was going to be a lot different for the Spurs than facing Oklahoma City, it really came to fruition in game number 1. So we'll dive into that. Sean Highkin, our Trailblazer insider from Rose Garden Report, is going to join the show at 3:20. And the main thing I want to ask him is a question I have been getting from Blazer fans. Why is it taking so long to hire a head coach? And so we'll ask Sean that question. And as I've said, and I think I'm right on this, there's no pressure for the Trailblazers to hire a coach tonight or tomorrow or by next week. They have no draft picks in the upcoming NBA draft. My guess would be you want to have a coach in place by the end of the month before the start of the new league year with free agency, because you're going to want your head coach to have input in terms of the type of roster that you have and the guys that you're considering bringing in. You're going to want to know who your coach is and whether or not he thinks that's a good idea based on what he has and what he has to work with. So that's pretty much what it's all about. So I would expect the coach to be in place here in the next, couple of weeks, at least by the end of the month. But we'll ask Sean that question. Why is it taking so long? And also we'll ask him if the pool of candidates has been narrowed. I've seen reporting that it's down to 3 guys, Tiago Splitter being one. But we'll get the latest on what Sean Highkin has heard and also get his take on what the Fire are doing right now for an expansion team playing really good basketball, which is cool. Your telephone number, if you want to reach out on this Friday, it is 503-248-0620, 503-248-0620. I've asked Shacker, one thing we're going to do today on this Friday, we're going to have a little musical themed show. And I've asked him to play songs from the movies that he and I grew up with, soundtrack music. And this is not so much the case today, but in the decade of the 80s, late 70s, and through the 80s, music soundtracks for movies were a big deal. Big-time artists were making big-time songs for the movies that we grew up with. So if you have a request that you would like to hear on the show, it has to be soundtrack related. Reach out to me on social media at Chad and Rip City, or fire me a text at 360-281-5473. And let us know what you would like to hear. But we'll do a little musical theme today. I think that will be fun. And then Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio. Bino! He's going to join the show coming up at 5:20, and we'll get his take on the NBA Finals. I want to ask him who he thinks is going to win MVP of the Finals. We'll also get his take on the trade, the big deal that went down with Myles Garrett going to the Rams, what that means for them. Are they the favorite now to win the championship? What does that mean for the NFC West? So we'll talk some football, and we'll get his take on the NBA Finals. It's pretty obvious that tonight is a must-win for the Spurs. It's not too often a team opens up at home and drops the first two games. The one finals that I do recall where that took place was 1993, Phoenix and Chicago. Charles Barkley, the MVP, going up against Michael Jordan. The Suns had the best record in the NBA that year and had home court advantage in the finals. The Bulls went into Phoenix and won the first two games and were up 2-0 going back to Chicago. Now, the weird part of this series, this is back when the finals format was 2-3-2. So they go back to Chicago. You figure the Bulls are going to end the series there in the Windy City. They did not. Phoenix won 2 of the 3 games in Chicago. They go back to Phoenix for Game 6, and then the Bulls win Game 6 in a close one thanks to a 3-pointer from John Paxson. So that's how that went down. But it's very rare. I would expect the Spurs to bounce back. But this series is interesting from the standpoint that many of the matchups favor New York. So let's go back to what we were saying before the series, where the Knicks are a bigger, more physical, sturdy basketball team than the Thunder. They have bigger bodies. And so what the Spurs were able to do with their guard play, especially Stephon Castle and Dylan Harper, those two guys for young players, very physical and very long. And they did a great job of getting into the teeth of the defense, in the paint, and get right at the rim. And they were able to do that because the Thunder, a good defensive team, but they rely on smaller guards who can switch and be able to play. And Harper and Castle in particular were able to take advantage of those matchups and just drive right at the rim and get easy buckets inside. That was an advantage for the Spurs, and they exploited it. But the problem is with New York, and we saw part of this in game number 1, there are bigger bodies. OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges are long, athletic, and very good defenders. So difficult time for the Spurs guards. Now, keep in mind, the Spurs did miss a ton of open shots. They did a good job during stretches of the game, but with their ball movement and some of their actions, they were able to produce a lot of open looks. They just couldn't get their guys to knock it down at a high clip. So they're going to have to shoot the basketball better tonight. There's no question about that. De'Aaron Fox was, for all intents and purposes, a no-show in Game 1. He had issues, especially in the fourth quarter, getting his mid-range shot to go down. He just simply has to play better. And for a guy that's making the type of scratch he's making, I expect him to play better. He won the Clutch Player of the Year award a couple of years ago in the NBA. He can't be no-showing in Game 1 of the NBA Finals. So they've got to get better production on offense from him, and I would expect him to shoot better. I expect the Spurs as a team to shoot better. But, of course, this all centers on Victor Wembanyama and what type of game he chooses to have and what type of mindset he's going to have and whether or not he can really get aggressive and establish himself in the paint. Now, he had 6 turnovers in Game 1. He also had 7 turnovers in the previous game that the Knicks and Spurs matched up with late in the regular season at Madison Square Garden. And that's because Wemby is still learning the game. He still has to polish up his game. And we saw that in the game late in the regular season and the game in Game 1 where he was trying to drive the ball recklessly right at Karl Anthony Towns, and he was turning it over. And if you look at that matchup between Cat and Wemby, Cat won game one in that matchup. So there's a couple of things to look at. One, for Wemby, he's going to have to defend Karl Anthony Towns probably a little bit more in this series than what the Spurs would care for, but he's the only guy who can really stop him or present, the type of resistance that is necessary. We talked about Karl Anthony Towns being a key factor in this series and why he was a great player next to Brunson to look at for the potential MVP, because if he wins his matchup and takes advantage of the opportunities he's going to have throughout the series and the Knicks win the championship, he's probably going to win most valuable player. And so what happened is, as we talked about before the series, the Spurs were going to utilize some of the smaller wing players on Cat, whether that was, Julian Champagnie or it's Vassell or any of the other guys outside of Wemby. Karl Anthony Towns was going to have to make them pay, utilizing his shooting ability, his size, and getting into the paint and causing havoc on both ends, especially on the offensive glass. And he did that and was a key part of that in that comeback after they got down by 14 in the third quarter. And by forcing the Spurs to adjust, they have to put Wemby on Karl Anthony Towns. Well, Cat is quite comfortable operating well away from the basket, so that draws Wemby away. It opens up the paint and allows guys to cut and drive and get shots at the rim. So for Wemby, he needs to be a little less aggressive in his defense of Cat, meaning when Karl Anthony Towns has got the ball back behind the three-point line, Wemby's got to he's got to give him a little more space to operate with. Give him space, encourage him to jack up the three, and then contest with your length. But when he gets up on him close, trying to smother him, Karl Anthony Towns is so gifted, he can put the ball on the floor and drive right by him. So Wemby's got to be smarter in his approach in those minutes where he's defending Karl Anthony Towns. And for Mitch Johnson, the Spurs coach, he's doing a good job. He's very annoying, and he just bothers me for some reason. You know how they say sometimes a person has a punchable face? He does. And maybe that's because the Spurs run roughshod over the Blazers in the first round. But Johnson's got to make sure he communicates with Wemby those keys when defending Cat. Give him a little more space, encourage him to shoot the three, and contest with your length. And we'll see if that happens. Now, my guess would be, based on the pattern that we've seen throughout the playoffs, Wemby will have a off night where he's not aggressive series. Expect that tonight, and the Spurs are going to need it to get the win and even up the series. Tonight, and the Spurs are going to need it to get the win and even up the series. And the Knicks just continued to do what they did throughout the previous rounds of the postseason. They've been on fire with 12 straight wins. Shamet shot the ball well. Brunson was critical in the fourth quarter. OG and Mikal Bridges made their presence felt on the floor. And the Knicks are a grown man team. They've got guys who have been there and done that and have played for multiple teams. They have experience. So we'll see how it's all going to be about the response from Wemby tonight, and that's going to be fun to watch. Love the matchup. Can't wait for Monday when they get back to Madison Square Garden. That place is going to be lit. All right, let's break it down. Telephone number 503-248-0620. Hope you're enjoying your Friday. Sean Hike and our Trailblazer Insider from Rose Garden Report is going to come up next on the Rip City Drive. All right, Brian No, Fox Sports Radio. Bino is going to join us coming up at 5:20. Let's head out to the phones. Joining us right now is our Trailblazer insider from Rose Garden Report, the one, the only Sean Hyken, who is back on the show. And Sean, the biggest question I'm getting right now from Blazer fans around town is, why is it taking so long to hire their next head coach? And my response has always been the same, that there's no urgency for them to hire a guy by tomorrow or next week or a couple of weeks from now because they don't have any draft picks. So my guess would be you want to have someone in place before the new league year begins at the end of the month. But I mean, what is what answer do you give when people ask you the same thing?
The answer that I give is that the hockey team that Tom Dundon owns is currently playing in the Stanley Cup Finals, and that's kind of where his attention is right now. I think, to your point, there is definitely something to the idea that if they had a draft pick coming up or there was like a trade that they were going to get done in the next week, they would want to know who was going to be coaching the team. But I think it's at the point right now where, they've got their finalists. They probably know who they want to hire. Yeah. And they're just a matter of, I think Dundon just wants to, wait until the Hurricanes run is done, whether they end up winning the title or losing to Vegas, and then turning his attention in full to getting the Blazers coaching search wrapped up ahead of the off season and whatever moves they might make there. That's kind of where I would say everything's at right now.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. But in regard to having a coach, I mean, since they don't have any draft picks, like you don't necessarily need someone in by the 23rd on draft night, but you would definitely want, I'm assuming that most teams would want your coach in place before the off-season maneuvers begin, right? Because you want to be able to talk to your guy, know who the guy's going to be so that they can have input on, roster changes, right? That makes sense.
Well, you would hope so. I mean,
yeah.
It hasn't always been done that way. If you remember back in 2012 when the Blazers hired Terry Stotts, which was the same summer that they drafted Damian Lillard, they didn't make that hire until August.
Oh, that's right.
Caleb Canales was coaching their summer league team as the interim head coach because he had finished out the previous season as the head coach. They didn't hire a coach until like August, maybe a month or so before training camp started. So it's not always going to be like, it isn't always that, but I do think we'll see something, pretty soon after the Stanley Cup Finals are over. And, the other thing you got to remember is that there are two other head coaching openings around the NBA in Chicago and Dallas, and those two teams both have top 10 picks. And so you would think there'd be even more for them to get something figured out. But I think we're going to see something here relatively soon for the Blazers.
All right, what's the latest you're hearing on the candidates? Have they narrowed their list? Are they getting close to finding a hire? What's the latest you're hearing on that?
So there's three that I think are pretty, solidly, in the running at this point. Some of the other, I don't think Jeff Van Gundy is still in it. There's, a few others that have been floated around. The three that I think are really still in the mix right now. One, obviously, is Thiago, who's been in the mix the whole time. And, if you made me guess right now, that's where I think it's ultimately going to end up. But he's obviously still in it. Mike Nori, the assistant from the Timberwolves, who gets a lot of interviews for these coaching jobs and seems really good at coming in second or third in a lot of these jobs, but he's still in the mix. I think Chicago's interested in him too. And then the other one that's a little bit of a wild card that I kind of didn't really take seriously when I first, saw that one come up, but I think from what I've heard, he's still in it, is this guy Tyler Lashbrook, who is a behind-the-bench assistant for the Celtics. As a pretty young guy, he's closer to my age, but as far as from what I've heard, he's still in it too. So I think those are the three finalists that we know about. Obviously, it's possible they go completely off the board, but I think it's probably going to be one of those three. And if I had to guess, I'd still say the leader in the clubhouse is Thiago.
And that's pretty much what you and I both thought would be the case when they began the coaching search, is that Thiago, based on his experience this year, based on the job that he had done, that he had put himself in a prime position to be hired on as the full-time head coach. So, that's what I wanted to happen, unless they were able to find a better candidate. But that's pretty exciting because I do feel like I agree with you, Sean. I think Thiago will be the guy.
That's what you would think. Now, obviously, this is, we still don't, this is still the first, major basketball-related decision that we've seen the team make, since the ownership transition. So, if it was this, it was the previous ownership group and it was just, analyzing what we think the front office is going to do, I'd have a lot better of an idea of, okay, this is what they're going to value. This is what they want. Dundon is still a total wild card. And you and I can sit here and lay out all the logical reasons why, yes, it probably should be Thiago and it probably will be Thiago, but I don't know. I think it's going to be Thiago, but I don't know that it's going to be Thiago. It could be one of these other two.
Do you think there are things we can learn with the decisions he's made over the course of time with the Hurricanes to gain kind of some insight into what type of owner he'll be with the Blazers, or is that a fallacy because both sports are different?
Well, I think he thinks there's things that we can learn from that. I think, I agree with you that all sports are different. And there are some things that I think do carry over, and there are some things that don't carry over. We're kind of, I've talked about this on here before. The situation that he has coaching-wise in Carolina with Rod Brindamore is an incredibly unique circumstance where he was able to find basically like a top 5 coach in the league who is willing to keep taking below market deals to stay because he never wants to leave Raleigh. And, I think at the beginning of this process, Dundon maybe thought that he could just replicate that here because he got lucky with that in Carolina. And I think he eventually found out that that wasn't the case. And that's why you're seeing, now the pool of candidates is a little bit, more in line with what a normal head coaching search would be, as opposed to just like trying to find, mid-major college coaches or like, Division II assistants or whatever, like some of the stuff that was maybe going on at the beginning of the search process. I think he kind of went around, tried to do it, quote unquote, that way, didn't really get anywhere. And now it's like, okay, you gotta, do things, maybe circle back to some of the more serious candidates.
All right, Sean, I wanted to ask you about this. I've given it some thought. You and I have talked about this over the last, couple of months. I have decided that I do not want the team to make a play for Giannis. At his age, 31, he's going to be 32 in season. We don't know how many elite level years he's got left, and he's got a lot of tread on the tires, or a lot of wear and tear on the tires. I just don't want to sacrifice a bunch of young assets for a player who's long in the tooth and doesn't really solve their spacing issue with the lack of shooting. So for me personally, I'm out on Giannis. If they make the move and they were able to get Giannis, I'd be all about it, but I don't think that's the direction they should go. What are your thoughts on that?
That's where I've been from the beginning on it. I think that, as obviously, if they do actually trade for Giannis, then, obviously I think because he's as good as he is, you can, everybody, you'll be able to talk yourself into it pretty easily. But I've had a lot of those same concerns the whole time. We just saw them lose a playoff series to San Antonio in part because they don't have anybody that can shoot. And that's obviously not an issue that Giannis is going to solve. Now they are getting Dame back next year, but you don't want the only real reliable shooter on your roster to be a 36-year-old who's coming off a torn Achilles. You've got to do other things to address their shooting needs. And if they use all their assets on Giannis, where, him and Denny have pretty redundant skill sets, I've never been like, I totally understand it. And like, there are certainly people that I respect that say that, anytime you can get, a top 5 player in the league who's still in kind of the back half of his prime as a market like Portland, you got to do it. But it's, for me personally, I don't think it's the right thing for them to do. If it was me that was making the decision. The other thing about it is there have been no indication that Giannis actually wants to be in Portland or stay in Portland long term. And so, if he, then you run the risk of doing it as a rental, which I know that worked out really well with the Raptors and Kawhi Leonard, but that team that, he joined was basically a title caliber supporting cast that just needed a superstar. And I don't think the Blazers are quite there yet as far as the rest of their roster. So I don't know, to me, that wouldn't be what I would do, but again, new owner, all bets are kind of off, and obviously Tom Dundon wants to make a splash, so I don't think it's outside the realm of a possibility that they could. It's for me personally, it's not really what I would do.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. We're talking with Sean Highkin, our Trailblazer insider from Rose Garden Report. Aside from big game hunting, just looking at the roster as is, they're going to have to do some type of consolidation. Like, I think the biggest need is to clear up the guard issue, right? Because of all the guards and trying to find playing time. Is that the biggest issue for you roster-wise, or is it something else?
Well, they just need more shooting, and they just need, I do think a consolidation trade is probably the way to go there, whether that's for, a big star like a Giannis or whether it's for, a couple of smaller things. The two guys that I would say are, the most likely to maybe be part of that would be Jeremy Grant, who just, had a pretty good year last year. So it's not, one of the worst contracts in the league anymore, but still clearly not a long-term guy. And then out of the young guys, which you would have to include one of the young guys in order to get really in any of these star conversations. I think Shaedon is probably the one that's the most likely to, be in that, in those types of things, given just kind of how the playoffs went for him. And especially if they, if they do end up bringing Thiago back as the head coach, who kind of saw after the playoffs how Thiago feels about Shaedon and how he's maybe not, not a guy that he really trusts. So I would think that would be something that they would prioritize if they're going to be putting different guys in play as far as some of these, bigger bigger moves that they want to make. But I think shooting, and Joe said this after the season at his exit interview, that's the biggest issue, and I still think that's true.
All right. How do you see the finals game 2 playing out tonight? Man, the Knicks were terrific in game 1 in their comeback. They've got some matchup advantages based on their size. Do you think the Spurs even it up as we go back to New York for game 3 Monday?
I always default to the home team evening it up if they drop game 1 at home, but I don't know, man. That's kind of a backbreaker if to lose that game at home after being up by as much as they were up by, and the amount of big plays that like Jalen Brunson and OG made in the fourth quarter in that game. I kind of think the Knicks can do this.
Yeah, I do too. After seeing the way it played in game 1 and seeing how they were able to exploit some of the matchups, I'm just really impressed with the Knicks squad. I thought the Mike Brown hire was ridiculous. I was wrong about that. I thought the East was a weaker conference because it was, but I wondered if that might, hurt the team that came out of the East going up against San Antonio or Oklahoma City. And clearly New York right now just absolutely on fire with 12 straight wins. It's really impressive, and they're a likable group. They're fun to watch.
Well, I hear you about the East being the weaker conference, but all of the stuff you're seeing about like during the Eastern Conference playoffs, whenever the Knicks would win those series, you'd hear all this stuff about how it's like the biggest point differential in a playoff series or a 12-game stretch. It's like at a certain point, like yes, they did have lesser competition than maybe San Antonio did coming out of the West and having to play Minnesota and having to play the defending champion Oklahoma City Thunder, but teams have easy playoff schedules all the time, and they don't blow teams out by as much as the Knicks were blowing teams out by. So I think at that point I was like, okay, I think we gotta just have to throw that stuff out and just say these guys are legit.
Yeah, no question. If it's not Portland, like what landing spot makes the most sense for you with Giannis?
I don't think it's off the board that Giannis doesn't get traded at all and actually just signs the extension after all this.
Interesting.
Because I can't really think of one that really like. It's kind of the same conversation that we had 3 years ago with Dame, where it's like, yeah, all the signs are pointing to. Now, Dame obviously did end up getting traded, but it was not to any of the teams anybody expected. Like the stuff that the one everybody's talking about with Giannis is Miami, and the stuff that Miami has to offer is pretty much the exact same stuff that they had to offer for Dame 3 years ago that Portland wasn't really interested in. I don't know why that suddenly becomes a much more attractive trade package 3 years later. So, I don't really buy that one as much as other people do, but I don't know. Like, I can't really think of one off the top of my head that makes a lot of sense. And I kind of wonder if this is all just going to lead to, Giannis just not happening after all this. I don't think that's off the board.
That's a good point. One final question. I mean, how about the Portland Fire sitting there at 6-5? They're supposed to be an expansion team, Sean. They're playing good basketball right now. What's your take?
Well, I think my take is that we just kind of, especially in the W where it's a lot smaller league and there's just like a higher concentration of talent on fewer teams, I think we just kind of have to get away from this thing of assuming that expansion teams are going to be bad, because you look at what Golden State did in their expansion season last year, and then both Portland and Toronto are having pretty good seasons so far this year. But even if you're drafting the 6th and 7th best players on other teams in an expansion draft in that league, you're still going to get a pretty good player. I think it's going to be a little bit different in the NBA in a couple of years when you're drafting, from 30 teams, like end of the bench. Like I think the talent is going to get a little bit more diluted then, but in the W, it's like, no, there's still a pretty big concentration of talent. So I'm just kind of recalibrating like what I think, expansion teams are actually going to be able to do. So it's been pretty fun.
All right, I do have one more question. There are a lot of fear mongers out there trying to preach doom with the Trailblazers potentially leaving town, which you and I both don't believe is going to happen. Have you heard anything from anyone on the city council and when they'll, have a decision moving forward with the arena?
I haven't heard anything directly in the last couple of weeks, but I don't know if you watched this, but on K2 after game 1 of the finals, they ran like a Rip City wrap-up kind of special episode, and part of it was an interview with one of the city councilors who's against the current version of the deal, and she really made it sound like the sticking point is, and this is at least my interpretation of it, but she made it sound like the sticking point is really the $75 million that's coming out of the Clean Energy Fund, or that's supposed to in the agreement. So if that's really what it is, and it's $75 million out of the total $600 million package, like you can find somewhere else to get that $75 million. Like, I think if that's really what the holdup is, there's ways that can get ironed out, and I ultimately think that's what's going to happen.
All right. Make sure you check them out at rosegardenreport.com. The best local coverage of the Trailblazers and Portland Fire. rosegardenreport.com. Our Trailblazer insider, Sean Highkin, with us. Sean, I appreciate you, my friend. Enjoy the games. Have a good weekend, and we'll catch up soon.
Yes, sir.
There you go. Sean Highkin. Appreciate the time, Sean. Nice to catch up with you. Game 2 of the NBA Finals coming up tonight. Yeah, the Portland Fire, very impressive. I get a lot of people asking me questions about the Fire now. What do you think about the Fire? What's your take on what they're doing? I think a lot of people are excited just to see the expansion team coming out to kick off the year playing some good basketball, which has been a lot of fun. Got the golf tournament tomorrow. I keep looking at the forecast, man. We're going to get punked. I hate June. June in the Northwest is always a bit of a crapshoot. It's like, what's up with that? 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. Yeah, rain's going to start, it looks like, early in the morning against all odds. This is a movie soundtrack theme day on the show. Yeah, so it looks like we're going to have rain from like 4 a.m. up to 11 a.m. A break in the 12 o'clock hour tomorrow, and then right at 1 when the tournament kicks off. Gosh, that's a bunch of garbage. All right, we do have another request, too, to work in, Shacker. Tony in Boring. Red Rider, Lunatic Fringe from Vision Quest. That's a quality song right there. Red Rider. Vision Quest is a good film as well. He also asked me if I was a wrestler. He said, Chad, let's start here. Red Rider, Lunatic Fringe from Vision Quest, my brother. My high school wrestling meet song when we came out. And then he asked me if I was a wrestler. And I told him no, because I would have gotten my ass kicked. He said with some practice, you would change that. I was in 8th grade, and I wrestled my buddy in PE class, who was a wrestler, bigger than me, and I beat him. I thought, bleep, I better start doing some wrestling. No, I'm not good. I'm not a good fighter. I would just get destroyed. And the wrestlers at school, I was friends with a couple of them. That's a weird breed right there because they're always rolling around in like their plastic bags. Like right before a meet day was the weirdest because they were walking around spitting into cups and wearing the plastic bags, trying to sweat out to make sure they got weight. Very interesting. All right, 503-248-0620. If you got a movie soundtrack request that you'd like to hear on the show today, reach out to me. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. Brian Noble stop by at 520. That's a good call by Tony and Boring. We have another request. The 1985 classic St. Elmo's Fire from John Parr. I've actually interviewed John Parr. I may have to pull that out for a best of show. He was awesome. Telephone number 503-248-0620 if you want to jump on board. A little side note of all kinds, but I stumbled across a bag of pretzels from Trader Joe's that are just delicious little morsels. Sweet onion style pretzel twists at Trader Joe's. At Trader Joe's, like every store has got something that I like and that I consume. So I end up stopping at like multiple places. And I'm big on snacks, nutrition bars, different things I can eat that are fairly healthy. I like finding different things, and I can if I go to multiple stores. So I get certain things at Target. I get certain things at Winco. I'll go to Trader Joe's. And really, all of the stores drive me crazy. Like Winco's great because their bar selection's nice, and they got some certain bars I can't find anywhere else. But there's always chaos in the aisles with boxes and the this and the that. It's too much. And then they expect you to bag up your own groceries. I don't like that either, but I do it. So anyways, I'll go there. And then Trader Joe's is great, but it's a madhouse. Every time you go in, it's just crazy. People are everywhere. Madness. But I love their produce. And then they've got, cool little snacks. And the pricing on a lot of their items is very reasonable, which I like. And then Target, if you don't have to wait and push that button to have them open up a cupboard where you can get your gear and move on. I hate that so much when you go in. It drives my dad crazy. He's like, I just went in to get some laundry detergent for your mom. I had to wait 5 minutes for someone to come and open up the cabinet. And I think they do that for the shrinkage, right? Because people, what I was told from someone there is like what do they call those things? The Tide Pods. Those they feel like little rubber balls almost, with the detergent inside. I think they call them Tide Pods. But anyways, what they said happened is the reason why they started locking those bad boys up is because people come in and they open up the containers and they just drop Tide Pods into their purse or bag or whatever, and then they roll out and they get free detergent. It's not a bad idea. That stuff's expensive. Basically, everything's expensive now. So anyways, my dad hates that, but I get things at Target. I just kind of shop around. Certain places have certain bars for less than other places. Safeway's got certain items that I like, and then certain items I think are overpriced. I don't know if you do that, but I end up hitting like 4 or 5 different stores to get the things I need. But those sweet onion twists, I think pretzels are like my favorite snack. They're amazing. I love all sorts, all kinds of pretzels. Give them to me. So I just went over. I've got a sales lady that works here in the office, Sunny. She's really nice. She's like, oh, anytime you want pretzels, you can help yourself. So I just helped myself to the rest of the bag of these sweet onion twists. Hope she doesn't mind, but I did. I just ate them all. Also, I got double-barreled on the way to work today, too. It was I-5, close to Moda Center. I'm coming in from Vancouver. I'm not sure why I didn't get on 405 today. I think I forgot and just stayed in the left lane. So traffic was stopped, like standstill. And we're up there just north of, the Coliseum exit, right there by Moda Center. And I'm like stopped for like 5 minutes. Traffic's not even moving. So, of course, I decided to look down at my phone and gaze the headlines. And the traffic started to move again. And the car that was in front of me was probably about 25 to 30 feet in front of me. And this guy in a big truck, I think it was like a Ram, right behind me, like laid on the horn. He was very bitter. I didn't acknowledge him. I just looked up and was like, oh, I better go now. And then when he had a chance, he moved over to his right to go around me. And it was pretty amazing because we're on the freeway. He didn't just go with the one finger. He went double barrel. And I respect that. Like, he was so angry, he was willing to take both hands off the wheel and fully extend his arms out the window of his big Ram truck to let me know that I needed to bleep off. How can you not respect that? And that's why driving's crazy, because people, when they're behind the wheel of their car, some people, they act in ways that they would never act if we were in a different setting. Maybe they would, but he went double barrel on me. That's pretty good. I just smiled. I didn't even know what to do. Like, do I respond by double barreling him? Do I go with the single barrel? Or do I just smile? I just smiled because I was actually impressed. I wish I could have told him that too. I was like, dude, I'm sorry that I upset you, but the double barrel was pretty sweet. Because he was probably going with the thigh maneuver. You ever done that before where you're driving? You're like, I need to grab this. So you use the thigh. Yeah. 324 headlines. See what's cracking in sports. And I got the double barrel for it. All right, 503-248-0620 was cracking in sports. And I got the double barrel for it. All right, 503-248-0620. I am going to play a piece from Dan Campbell, coach of the Lions, talking about the Myles Garrett trade. Dan Campbell's a crazy man. I respect him, and his players play hard for him. Like he's just a cool guy. His fourth down decision making is insane. Like he's totally insane when it comes to decision making in games sometimes. But I like his response when asked about the Myles Garrett trade. We're going to hear from Victor Wembanyama. He was asked if Coach Pop communicated with him after game one. And we'll talk more about the game. But the Knicks, they have a really good chance to take a 2-0 lead back to New York. The matchups in this series, I think they might favor the Knicks more than we thought going in. I can't wait to see the response from Wemby tonight. We talk about these legacy games. This is it has the makings of a potential legacy game for Wemby. He's got to play big time tonight so that his team can even up the series going back to Madison Square Garden with Game 3 on Monday. All right, 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. You got the Rip City Drive with Chad doing on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. All right, now 4 o'clock chat here. First stop, Carolina.
Along the right wing boards, back up top, it's Gostisbehere. Send it cross shot. Game over! Seth Jarvis wins it in overtime!
How about that? The Canes take Game 2 Stanley Cup Finals in overtime. 3 goals in 7 minutes of the game time before Vegas tied it to force OT. Game 3 tomorrow in Las Vegas at 5 on ABC. That series is tied up at a game apiece. NBA Finals Game 2 tonight down in San Antonio. Tip-off at 5:30. Game can be seen on NBC. Spurs favored by 6.5. New York leads the series after taking Game 1, 105-95. Mariners and Tigers from Detroit. That'll be at 3:40. Brian Wu on the bump for Seattle. In the PGA Tour, J.J. Post World Cup. Now, we were playing songs from movie soundtracks. This, of course, National Lampoon's Vacation, Holiday Road. And if memory serves correct, I think this is Lindsey Buckingham from Fleetwood Mac. Man, Lindsey, obviously great with Fleetwood Mac, but has some terrific solo work as well. I think that song, it's called Trouble. That's one of my favorites. Lindsey's pretty cool. This is also the first movie where I was exposed to Christy Brinkley. It was a long time ago, but I think that was a good experience for me. My Uncle Gordon loves this movie. Great one-liners. If you got any requests you want to hear today, reach out to me. If you want to jump on board and talk a little sports, have you ever double-barreled someone on the freeway? Telephone number 503-248-0620. Don't forget, every Tuesday, we're going to have Hops Ticket Tuesday, your chance to go and check out the brand-new ballpark, Hops Ballpark, which is spectacular. And we're going to give away a 4-pack of tickets each and every Tuesday here on the Rip City Drive. Game 2 of the NBA Finals tonight, 5:30. We have Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Finals tomorrow. And that was an amazing comeback by Carolina last night. Just dead in the water. 2.5 periods in, they're down 2-0, and they've done nothing. And then all of a sudden, they caught fire.
Vegas wins the draw, but it'll deflect right to Frederick Anderson. He'll settle it down. Canes cleared out. Will Carrier into the zone. Drop Jankowski. He scores! Mark Jankowski has tied it up here, and the Canes have come back from 2 down. Oh, his first of the postseason, and Mark Jankowski has got this building in a frenzy. Svechnikov with it. Back here. Gostisbehere. He scores! There's a ghost sighting on the power play, and it puts Carolina up 3-2. Give it to the captain. He directs it home. Along the right wing boards, back up top, it's Gostisbehere. Send it cross shot. Game over! Seth Jarvis wins it in overtime.
Maybe the most famous one-timer in Hurricanes history.
What I was thinking about when that was going down, amazing comeback by the Canes to get the win in overtime and, keep themselves in a good position to get the cup, was Tom Dundon. Wish I could have been sitting next to him wherever he might have been when that comeback took place. Can you imagine how excited he was? So Game 3 will be tomorrow. That series tied up at 1. Now, we know that tonight for the Spurs, it's all going to be about Victor Wembanyama, about establishing position down low, being aggressive, and making sure that he makes his presence felt in the paint on both sides. And he's got to tighten it up. He's got to do a better job with his shot making. He's got to do a better job defensively on Karl Anthony Towns. A lot of pressure for a young guy, but he's the alien. And he was asked after Game 1 if Coach Pop had reached out to him. Here's what he had to say.
I know Pop has talked to you after some big moments throughout this run. I'm just curious if he said anything to you either last night or this morning.
I haven't talked to him yet, but yes, he's texted me. In the big lines, it was that I've been bad and I've done better than this.
Yeah, he's better than that. I like Wemby's approach. I don't think he is, rattled too much. I think he understands his ability and what he's capable of, but he has to play better. And so does De'Aaron Fox. He was brutal in game number 1. And usually in the NBA, you have nights like that where you just don't make shots. And if the Spurs make the shots they missed in game 1, they're probably going to even up the series at 1 game apiece going back to New York. Let's go out to the phones. I think we have someone on board. Clackamas. My man Dave is out there. Dave, welcome to the show. Happy Friday, my friend. What's on your mind?
Happy Friday, Chad. Yeah, it's a fun time with the finals and stuff.
Hey, Dave, thanks for sending me the note, too, that the Spurs, if they win the title, will be the second youngest team to win the championship behind the 77 Blazers. That's cool.
Yeah, I was so happy to hear that. That made my day. It's a nice record to have. I hope the Blazers can just keep that, tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Because that is a really unbelievable record, the Blazers were that young and won. And they didn't through the growing pains either. They just shot right up. I think it's the greatness of Walton, actually, that they went all the way.
Yeah, much like Wemby with the Spurs this year, Walton with the Blazers back then. A one player that Philadelphia had no answer for.
Yeah, and I think Wemby, I really do. I agree with you that this game, too, is important, just like with the Carolina Hurricanes. If they had lost that game, too. What's interesting, the team that led in the Stanley Cup ended up losing both games so far. That's kind of interesting because Carolina was ahead way up in game 1 and lost, and Vegas was up and lost. So, but yeah, back to San Antonio, I think that it is a must win. Wemby is pretty emotional, which is okay, but he's 22. Tim Duncan, I believe, was 23 when he won it all.
Yeah.
But he had David Robinson with him.
And I just checked. Bill Walton was 24 when the Blazers won the title in '77.
Fantastic. And that just shows the greatness of Walton. I think he's more measured than Wemby at this point because Walton won all through high school, all through college. He was a winner. And winners, I think they're a little bit more measured. And wins and losses, they can take it a little better. So with Walton, I think their time had come. Wemby, he could have a monster game. He could have 40 points and 20 rebounds, but then the next game shoot 1 for 8 and have like 12 points and 5 rebounds. As with Walton, you pretty much were sure he'd have 20 points, 20 rebounds, 4 or 5 blocks, 4 or 5 assists. He was great every single game. And I think maybe Wemby just as he gets older, maybe will be more consistent that way. But right now, I really thought it'd be the Spurs, but now I'm kind of hedging a little bit. I'm thinking, the point guard for New York, I always forget his name, but
Brunson.
he seems
Jalen Brunson.
Brunson, yeah. I can't remember his name, Brunson, for some reason. He really seems to be the real deal. He had a bad shooting night on game 1, but then he came back at the end and was shooting the lights out. So he really seems to be something for a small point guard. Small point guards usually don't lead their teams to championships. You had Isaiah Thomas. He did it. Steph Curry did it. Maybe Brunson can do it too. So we'll have to see. But it should be an interesting series, and I'm really stoked to see what happens in this series.
Yeah, that's why I want the Spurs to win tonight, because I want this series to go on 6 or 7 games because it'll create more drama. So I'm looking forward to seeing the response, how Wemby responds tonight, if the Knicks are going to be able to continue to dominate after 12 straight wins. But Brunson, the toughness that he showed after getting his knee tricked in game 1, coming back and finishing strong in the fourth quarter, I was like, dang, he is good. So good. All right, that's Dave and Clackamas. Thanks, Dave. I appreciate you, my friend. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. Yeah, Wemby's only, 22? He's young. And this all goes back to the experience / youth discussion we've had. Loaded up there this year had nothing to do with their talent. I love Wemby. And they're loaded up. Their young guard this year had nothing to do with their talent. I love Wemby, and they're loaded up. Their young guards are great. Like they've got a very good, deep young roster. But the NBA playoffs in my entire life, outside of the '77 Trailblazers, you don't just show up and go win a title. There's a process there, and so we'll see if the Spurs can bounce back. But they're playing a team with grown men, guys who have been there. They've been around. They've suffered through some difficult defeats, and the Knicks are playing with severe purpose right now. But Wembanyama is a special player, obviously. And they got some guys who got to step up. De'Aaron Fox, awful in game one, needs to step up. I was a little bit stunned that Dylan Harper got such little play in the fourth quarter because at times during the game he looked like the best player on the floor. It's fun. It's fun to sit back and watch. I don't have a dog in the fight. I like the Knicks squad because I like the group that's assembled. I like what they're all about. Like they're a good group of dudes, very likable. And the Spurs have some likable guys as well. The Spurs are just a good organization. And the Knicks, I think the problem with the Knicks, like I love their guys. It's their owner that I can't stand. James Dolan is a loser. Now, he's a winner from the standpoint that, he's done very well in his life. Like very, very well. But the guy is a clown. And the fact that Charles Oakley is not allowed in the building and employees of the Knicks are not allowed to talk to a great classic Knick is unbelievable to me. But again, I've got a lot of reasons to hate James Dolan. Bad owner, a-hole, treats Charles Oakley like garbage, and he used his power and influence to weasel his way into opening up for the Eagles during their concerts. I'll never forgive him for that. I showed up at Moda for an Eagles concert, get to my seat, and I'm just expecting to sit back and relax until the show begins, and then some band rolls out. The problem is it's not Don Henley and company. It's some band I've never heard of before. JD and the Straight Shot. Come to find out, JD stands for James Dolan, and this guy was up there with his band opening for a legendary band in the Eagles. And I guess if you've got the money and the power and the influence to be able to work your way into that type of gig, more power to you. But he was terrible. And he was up there talking, sharing stories, trying to ham it up with the crowd. And I'm just like, dude, you're getting in the way of progress here, James. We don't care about you or your music or your band or your stories. Get off the stage and let the Eagles get up there and start jamming music, all right? And go back to doing what you do best, and that's screwing up the Knicks. But he's actually done a good job. They made some good hires of late in the front office, and it's really helped turn that, team around. The Knicks right now, so good. And I'll ask you the question, who is the best free agent signing in the history of the NBA? Is it Jalen Brunson? We'll hear from Charles Barkley on that topic. This, of course, the great song from Ghostbusters, Ray Parker Jr., and I believe he got into trouble with this song because he stole a bass line from Huey Lewis in the News on Want a New Drug. He did, and he had to pay for it. But I think it's undisclosed. It's one of those deals where details of that case or how much was paid, it's like sealed, and it's never quite been revealed. But Huey Lewis got over in that situation. All right, 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. If you've got a request from a movie soundtrack, a song you'd like to hear, let us know. We'll play it for you. Brian Nose coming up at 520. We'll hear from Charles Barkley. Is Jalen Brunson the best free agent signing in the history of the NBA? You got the Rip City Drive. All right, this, of course, the theme song from the James Bond movie, A View to a Kill. Christopher Walken played the bad guy, and he was a psychotic, incredible movie. I'm a big James Bond fan. And what I've learned to do over the course of time is that I just appreciate the different actors who played Bond for what they were. Connery is the GOAT, but each and every actor brought a different flavor and a different style. Roger Moore brought a little more comedy and humor, which I learned to really enjoy. But Christopher Walken is a scary human being. Played a great psycho. All right, 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. Oh, yeah, turn it up. This is a good part of the song. In the history of the NBA. Signing in the history of the NBA. I think what makes the Brunson signing so good is that his rise to stardom was unexpected. Everyone knew he was a good player when the Knicks got him from Dallas, but no one thought he was going to be able to rise to this level. And I think maybe he's being suggested as the best free agent signing of all time, partly because he plays in New York City, and that is the Mecca, and they're going to get a lot more attention than the Knicks than a smaller market team. But there's no doubt the signing of Brunson has been phenomenal. But here are the potential candidates. Shaquille O'Neal signed by the Lakers. He left Orlando. Jerry West was able to pull him in. He got a nice fat deal with Los Angeles and went on to win 3 consecutive championships from 2000 to 2002. So they formed a dynasty with Phil Jackson, Kobe Bryant, and company. LeBron James, when he took his talents to South Beach with that horrendous TV show, The Decision with Jim Gray. So LeBron to Miami in 2010, not 5, not 6, not 7, but they did win 2 championships, went back-to-back. And, of course, Kevin Durant to the Warriors in 2016 when they had that spike in the cap dollars. And once again, it was Jerry West who closed the deal on that one for the Warriors. And then the result was back-to-back championships in 2017 and 2018. And he got finals MVP honors in both years. One that's underrated but should not be forgotten when, once again, the Mavericks let someone go and Steve Nash signed a deal with the Suns. I believe at the time it was worth like $69 million. That's a very nice price. And that's what started the 7 seconds or less offense under Mike D'Antoni, the Pringles man. And then you've got Jalen Brunson. But the Chuckster, Charles Barkley, was asked if Brunson is the greatest free agent signing of all time.
Listen, I said this a few years ago, I think Brunson might turn out to be the greatest free agent signing. I'm not talking about LeBron and Kevin Durant and guys like that, but I think Brunson, if he's able to deliver a championship to New York, it'll be the greatest free agent signing in NBA history. There's nobody knew he was going to be this good. I didn't. You guys, nobody. No. When New York signed him, they didn't think he was going to be this good. He's turned them into a perennial contender. They went from never being talked about to the conference finals last year. Now they're in the finals because of Brunson. So if he's able to finish this journey, Mike, it would be the greatest free agent sign in NBA history.
All right, that's Chuckster. Now, I think it's a great signing, but it's really hard to put Brunson at the top when we haven't seen the end result yet. If he wins a championship, that moves him up the list. There's no question. But how can you go against Shaquille O'Neal when the Lakers got him, they lured him away from Orlando, and it resulted in 3 championships? I understand that those type of signings, like, of course, adding Shaq is a no-brainer. If you can get him to come, if you're willing to find a contract that will make him happy and he signs it, it's a no-brainer. Of course, that's going to work with Shaq. I guess what makes Brunson and Steve Nash so unique is that we knew they were good players, but we didn't know they were going to be MVP-type players. But with Shaquille O'Neal, it resulted in 3 championships. That's a big deal. Same thing with LeBron. It changed the entire setup for the Heat, and they went back-to-back. They should have won more titles, but did not. Same thing with Kevin Durant. 2 championships, 2 finals MVPs. The move paid off. And had he not gotten hurt, they probably would have won a 3rd title. But I looked to Shaq, and I'm like, that's got to be the one because it resulted in the most championships. But if you're talking about unknown guys or someone flying under the radar, it's Brunson and Steve Nash. All right, let's go out to the phones. Our next guest cashed in on the first and the second half of Game 1. He was excited going in. He's got to be feeling pretty good right now. It's Spirit Mountain Mike who is with us. Mike, I had a couple of people reach out to me after game number 1 and like, hey, Spirit Mountain Mike hit on both bets. You won on the first half and the second half. Perfect call, brother.
Well, sometimes you just got that feeling, and this is what happens, Chad. And I'm going to tell you right now, I kind of see the same pattern for tonight. Now, I think San Antonio could pull it out by 2 or 3 or 4 points, but I'm taking those points with New York on the full game. And,
they might be.
I think
it's pretty good value. I mean, keep in mind that the Knicks right now, they've won 12 straight games, so they're absolutely on fire. So they've got a streak going, and they're getting 6.5 after winning game number 1 by 10 points. It would seem that the value tonight would be on the Knicks side.
Absolutely. I'm sitting right out here in front of the sports book right now, Chad, and I just got through laying my bets down. And, I think the first half, the Spurs are going to be strong. And I think they're going to probably take that first half to even finish the 3.5. But here we go again. I think the second half is going to be the same story.
All right, so you're going to do the same thing. You're going to go Spurs first half, Knicks second half.
Right. I'm taking Knicks plus those points. It's hard to turn. That's a lot of points, I think. I mean, this Knicks team's awful good, Well,
they've won 12 straight. They've won 12 straight.
Yeah, I know it. But San Antonio could win this game by 4 or 5 points. But the 7 points is really a stretch for me.
Yeah,
so I'm taking the Knicks plus the points on that. San Antonio, of course, you agree that they don't win tonight.
It's over.
This is going to be
it's over.
Yeah, it's going to be a short streak.
Yeah, they got to win tonight. Hey, give my best to Justin. Tell Justin I said what up, and Spirit Mom Mike, good luck tonight, buddy.
Hey, I appreciate that, Chad, and I sure will.
All right, you got it. There's Spirit Mountain Mike. He's going to go first half Spurs, but take the Knicks plus the 6.5. And I think that's the latest line that I saw. 503-248-0620. That game will tip off at 5:30. From one Mike to another, let's go out and grab Raider Mike. What's up, Raider Mike?
Well, cool subject involving soundtracks.
Yeah.
That's your home run zone, really. You love that music.
Well,
that's
think about how we grew up, Raider Mike. Like, we grew up in a day and age where the movies were big and going to the theater was awesome, but movie soundtracks were the thing back in the 70s and 80s. We grew up with that. So we would not only seek out the movie, but sometimes the soundtrack to the movie was more important than the movie itself.
I got hammered when I watched Footloose. I was 18, a bunch of friends. And after I heard the song Footloose, I decided to break out in the middle of the street after the movie and dance like Kevin Bacon. So, yes, it influenced me a little bit. I'm All Right, Caddyshack, Kenny the King, Top Gun. Kenny's the king of the movie soundtrack.
Oh, yeah.
You can't go against him. Now, some other ones, View to a Kill is awesome. And Chris Walken is fantastic as a villain. He's just you actually believe he is insane in that movie. But this is the way he is in real life. So well done, Chris. How about In Your Eyes, Peter Gabriel? First anything?
Yeah, that's a good song.
That's a fantastic song. I do that sometimes. It's one of my favorite songs to do. So, yeah. Now, as far as bad music, that dumbass Dolan, I want to give him the double barrel. Yes. All day long, every day. Look at this, Dolan. It's up again in your face, you moron. I can't stand that guy.
Yeah.
His band sucks.
Yeah.
My band would blow their band off the stage. you're gone. We're done here. So anyway, as far as double barreling on the freeway, you know the Asshat Brigade. It was number one on the list. Let's see if you remember. We haven't visited this in, 5 years?
Let me think here real quick. Chiefs fans?
There was 5 of them. No.
Oh.
No, there were 5 irritating people. Just irritating.
Well, tell me. Refresh my memory.
If you mow the lawn at 7 in the morning, I'm going to pull up and sing Freddie Mercury at 4 in the morning with the stripper I just picked up the night before. Or if you are a deadhead chick that has not shaved her legs or armpits for a year and you're going 50 miles an hour through the Terwilliger curves, oh, you're getting double barreled. You're going to get you're getting disciplined. You're going to get corrected immediately. I'm going to double barrel you. Then I'm going to jump in front of you. And I'm going to take the left arm, point it over my hood, and point the finger to the right lanes. And then I'll do the thigh move, like you talked about earlier. I'll do the thigh move, and I'm going to double barrel her one more time to say goodbye. So yeah, no, I'm with you, bro. I'm Army. Lead, follow, or get out of the way. What are you doing, you jackass? You are just messing up everyone's day. And I'm going to correct you. I'm going to be the guy who takes action and corrects your stupidity in front of everybody. Because after I do this, I'm going to point to her. This is the idiot. To everyone behind us, that's your idiot. The hairy-legged chick with the armpit hair who has no clue on how to behave in traffic. So, got that off my chest. Good with that, you know. So anyway, I found a bar in Morganton, North Carolina, 27 miles, sports bar where I can sing tonight. I know the crew there. They're going to be guys named Buford, Roscoe, etc. in this crowd. But I'm going to break some Soundgarden out for sure, some Zeppelin. I'm going to cheer on the Knicks. I never thought I would cheer on the Knicks, but Rick played for us. I love Rick as a player. That dude played hard. His son's just better. He's a lot better. And Viking, the Golden Knight game, BGK game, that one hurt, dude. Last night, I traveled 40 miles.
I couldn't believe it. No, I couldn't believe it. I thought for sure that game was over, Raider Mike. They had the game won, and then Carolina stormed back in that third period. So Raider Mike said he's in Morganton, North Carolina. According to the latest census, a population of 17,474. Morganton is approximately 75 miles northwest of Charlotte and 57 miles east of Asheville. That's where Raider Mike is bumping around right now. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. Let's go back out to the phones. Let's go to Vancouver. Eddie, my man. Eddie in Vancouver, what's up?
Chad, man, I feel so bad that it's going to be raining tomorrow for you. I've been looking forward to this golf tournament.
I know.
With Nancy, dude. So I feel bad for you, man. I really do.
She just called me.
I live in Vancouver.
Yeah, she just called me during the commercial break and said that the weather is looking. We might avoid the rain, possibly. So we'll see. But she's hopeful, which is nice.
Yeah, that's how it is here. Like this time of year, you kind of got to be flexible. It's still kind of springy, you know what I mean? But you might get lucky, man. But they're pretty right, though. I think, you never know, bro. But what I wanted to call in about is, first I want to give props to Raider Mike for talking about Kenny Loggins, because Kenny Loggins is the man. But, dude, I know you're a golfer, and everyone loves Caddyshack, the first one. But I'm a big Caddyshack fan, man. I love, Nobody's Fool, too. Kenny Loggins in that song.
I just pulled up the song on I was going to talk about that song, Nobody's Fool, which is the theme from Caddyshack 2 by Kenny Loggins. because I take the approach where I thought Caddyshack 2 was not a good movie, but that song, Nobody's Fool from Kenny Loggins, is epic. It's a great, great song.
Yeah.
I just didn't
Yeah,
care
it
for the
is.
movie too much. But that song, Nobody's Fool, is an underrated gem from Kenny.
No doubt, no doubt. And I also wanted to say, I am rooting for New York. I did want Wemby to win too, because I was just so fascinated, and we lost to it. I was just, a freak of nature. But my little brother lives in New York. He's from Portland. He's been a teacher. He's been there since I think '98. So everybody's happy in New York. You know what I mean? So it's like people who don't talk to each other are talking to each other, stuff like that. It's what it reminded me of is I sent a message in for like Ghostbusters 2 on our own. It reminds me of, like, I can imagine what's going on in New York right now, bro. It's like in Ghostbusters 2 when they're singing "Lifting Me Higher and Higher." Remember they, because everyone's mad that the slime was making everybody pissed off under the building.
Yeah.
So, but all the New Yorkers came together. You know what I mean? That's kind of like what's going on in New York right now. So I'm happy. I want New York, to win. They deserve it. You know what I mean? That is the best city in the world. So, hate it or, hate it or love it. I mean, we love where we live, but I got to admit, New York probably is probably one, the best city in the world.
No, it is.
I'd have to say that.
After going there and seeing it with my own eyes, I agree. It's awesome. I'll never forget the first time I went to New York back in 2017. They were doing a concert at Citi Field where the Mets play. It was called Classic East, and there were 3 acts that were playing on the Sunday or the Saturday night. It was because it was like a 2-day show, Friday, Saturday. The Saturday acts were Doobie Brothers, followed by Steely Dan, followed by the Eagles. And so the reason why I went is that the Eagles had done a concert. This is after Glenn Frey passed. It could continue those. And then the idea came to dawn that they could continue on if they had someone in the Glenn Frey bloodline to join the band. And so his son Deacon joined, and they did a show called Classic West at Dodger Stadium. And it went so well, they put together a show over in New York for Classic East. So on a whim, I was like, well, we got to do it. And so I met the Godfather and his wife out there. And I did a red eye. So I flew from Portland into Philadelphia, and I caught a short flight from Philly into LaGuardia. Never been to New York in my life. And I'll never forget, like, coming out of the clouds and getting the first glimpse from the plane of Manhattan. And it was like the never-ending city. I'd never seen anything like it. And so I went from landing at LaGuardia to jumping in a Uber, and then I was walking around, Times Square. And I met the Godfather and Nancy there. We walked around. I got a cup of coffee, had a bagel. We jumped on the subway, went to the Bronx, and we went to a Yankees game. And then from there, we caught an Uber ride over to Citi Field in Flushing and went to the concert. And then I woke up the next day. We met in downtown and went to the 9/11 memorial. And then after that, I caught the train out to the airport, and I flew out of JFK to go back home. But yeah, that first sight of the city, I was like, oh, okay, this is why everyone thinks New York's the best. That place is amazing. And I've been back a couple times since. Love it. Absolutely love. And Yankee Stadium's cool too. And this song here is awesome. Caddyshack 2, bad movie. This is a great song. Like Kenny Loggins at this point was just dialed in when it came to the music for the soundtracks. I hit my boy Steve with this song. He's like, I forgot about that one. And I think one of the YouTube videos I saw of the music video, I think they say something similar to it. It's like, horrible movie, great song. Some sequels just should never have been done. Caddyshack, the original, is spectacular, but Caddyshack 2 is hot garbage. Hot gabbage. All right, we'll keep things rolling. I appreciate the phone calls. Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio, going to join us coming up at 5:20. You got the Rip City Drive with Chad doing. I do think it's important to mention today is a critical day in Portland history. It is June 5th, 2026. And, of course, on this day back in 1977, the impossible happened. It is Blazer Mania Day because on June 5th, 1977, the Trailblazers won the championship.
I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome aboard the Portland Trail Blazers on Flight 163.
Here we go, the inbound of McGinnis. Drive, stop, pump, shoot, short, no good, and the game is over! The game is over! Well, we couldn't have a post-game show if we tried. Look at that madhouse out there. Lucas and Walden trying to fight through the traffic and go into the locker room. The Portland Trailblazers, at about 2 minutes and 18 seconds past the hour of 2 o'clock, have won the World Championship. They are number one. 109 to 107 is the final score, and it's all over.
It's all over. So June 5th, 1977, today is Blazer Mania Day. And I had a few people reach out and suggest that this should be a local holiday. I have no issue with that whatsoever. All right, we were talking about James Dolan being the crummy owner that he is. He's not a good guy. Charles Oakley, who is one of the greatest bad boys of all time from the NBA and a beloved former Knick, who was a key part of their great teams in the 90s. He was on with Jim Rome and was asking about whether or not he'll be able to sit courtside with the rest of his teammates and watch the Knicks in the NBA Finals.
No, they're not letting me in the building. Hey, Jim, it's bad. I was in Atlanta. I went to a game in Cleveland. Them guys cannot speak to me when the owner's around. It's bad. How can you play with someone for 10 years, and when you see him, been to my mother's house 25, 30 times, we've been in the trenches. I mean, it shouldn't be about money. It shouldn't be about he paying you this and that. You can't speak to me. And a lot of fans get mad at why he should speak to you because you said he wasn't a leader. It ain't got nothing to be about being a leader. I went to war with him no matter if he was the leader or not. I still went to war with him.
I want to be clear about this, Oak. What we're talking about is when you were in Cleveland, you saw Patrick Ewing and even John Starks, right? And then
Allen Houston, Walt Frazier. I watched the celebration. I was at the game. I was on the court.
And these guys won't communicate with you.
I mean, that guy, he's a bully over there. He running a plantation. I mean, everything he do is a plantation move. Even back when he sent 8 guys to jump on me. There's no way in the world that in the sport someone played that 10 years, something like that happened, and he didn't get punished for it. The commissioner didn't suspend him or fine him. He was there. It could have been a ride. So he make all the owners look bad, what he doing now. I mean, I feel sorry for the guys who he paying money, but he shouldn't have that much control. You can't speak to somebody, I heard things about him doing that. Now I see it for myself. It's embarrassing.
Hey,
All right, there you go. Charles Oakley on James Dolan. I'm trying to think of a player where I could, use it for local context. Like, who's a great ex-Trailblazer that's beloved? Who was kind of a strong guy? Maybe Maurice Lucas or Jerome Kersey. Now, of course, both have passed away. But can you imagine back in the day, like Jerome Kersey, like the owner trying to usher Jerome out of the Rose Garden or the Coliseum, or Maurice Lucas, and not being allowed back in? Like, that's just crazy. But that's James Dolan. He's a crazy guy. And Charles Oakley is, you talk to guys that play with him, he was a great teammate, obviously a great Knick. And as he mentioned there, he went to war with them. But yeah, James Dolan is a very unlikable guy. That's what's so bizarre about this team, because Dolan is trash, But the team and the coach and the front office and the work they've done, a very likable group, starting with Jalen Brunson. And I don't care where you put him in terms of being the best free agent signing ever, whatever, it doesn't matter. He is a great player. And the Knicks cashed in. They took a chance on a guy, and he's turned out to be so much more than what you would have thought. And that's what it takes to be a contender sometimes. You've got to hit it big on a couple of signings or draft picks or whatever the case may be. And the Knicks, they hit the jackpot. Brunson's so much more than what they thought. Same thing with Denny Avdia. When the Blazers made the deal for Denny, they knew he was a good player, and they knew that they were getting him for a great price and that he was on a very team-friendly contract. It just turns out that Denny Avdia has been so much more than what they thought they were getting. And that's what successful teams do. They hit it big on some of these moves that, fly a little under the radar. And most people thought the Knicks were crazy to bring in Brunson, and it's just paid dividends. The guy's awesome. And he's likable. Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, very likable. Karl Anthony Towns, Landry Shamet. Yeah, they're a very likable group. All right, 503-248-0620. We're getting closer to Bino, Brian O, Fox Sports Radio, who's going to stop by at 520. Definitely going to talk finals with him, and we'll dive into some football as well. I want to focus in on the Myles Garrett trade. I'll ask him if they should reach out to Aaron Donald just to gauge his interest and see if he wants to come back to wreak havoc on a part-time basis on his terms. You got the Rip City Drive with Chad doing on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. All right, what's going on? 5 o'clock chat here. We'll start in Carolina.
Along the right wing boards, back up top, it's Gostisbehere. Send it cross shot. Game over! Seth Jarvis wins it in overtime!
Yeah, Canes win Game 2 Stanley Cup Finals in overtime. Scored 3 goals in 7 minutes of game action before Vegas tied to force OT. And then they win it in the extra period. Game 3 tomorrow in Vegas at 5 on ABC. Series tied at 1 game apiece. Finals Game 2 tonight coming up in a half hour down in San Antonio on NBC. Spurs favored by 6.5. New York leads that series 1-0. They won Game 1 by 10. The Mariners and Tigers are battling now, kicking off a set in Detroit. The Mariners have been on fire of late. And right now the Tigers on top 3-1, top of the 5th. Phillies doubling up the White Sox 6-3. And the Red Sox lead the Yankees in New York, top of the 4th, 3-1. All right, Game 2 of the NBA Finals coming up at 5:30 on NBC. Knicks with a 1-0 lead in the series. This, of course, Power of Love from Huey Lewis and the News from Back to the Future. We're playing songs from movie soundtracks today on the show. And Huey Lewis was one of those guys in the 80s who was on fire. Pretty much everything he touched back then went to gold. Says here, the song by Huey Lewis and the News, written for the soundtrack of the 85 film Back to the Future. The song was released as a single and became the band's first #1 hit on the U.S. Billboard Hot 100 and their second #1 hit on the U.S. mainstream rock chart. In the U.K., it was released as a double A-side with Do You Believe in Love, becoming the band's only top 10 hit. On the U.K. singles charts, the song is included alongside Back in Time on the film's soundtrack and appears as a bonus track on international editions of the band's 4th studio album, 4. So Lewis was approached to write the theme song for the film. He met with Bob Gale and Steven Spielberg and Robert Zemeckis from the film's production team, who intended that the band be Marty McFly's favorite band. Though flattered, Lewis did not want to participate because he did not know how to write film songs and did not want to write one called Back to the Future. Zemeckis assured Lewis he could write any song he wanted, so Lewis agreed to submit the next song he wrote, which was Power of Love. And the lyrics do not make any mention of the film's storyline. Very interesting. All right, 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. And it sounds like a lot of people that we've talked to or people have called into the show and people I've talked to around town, a lot of people are pulling for the Knicks. Surprising, because a lot of people on the West Coast, we kind of give the middle finger to the East Coast. But, and, you know, because of the bias that exists. But I think a lot of people are still mad that the Spurs beat the Blazers. But I know some of my friends who are Blazer fans that they're pulling for the Spurs because they'll feel better about getting ousted by San Antonio knowing they went on to win the championship. So we'll see what the response is tonight. You know, a couple of keys to keep an eye on for the game tonight. And by the way, Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio, going to join us coming up here at 5:20. It starts with Wemby. I mean, you've heard it from everyone, right? But it's so true. you have to make sure that Wemby is a dominant force on both ends to start the game. So they're going to have to do a better job of getting him in position to make an impact. That's going to come down to Wemby, his mindset, and also his teammates. And there are ways that they can do that. One simple way is to, get Wemby involved in the pick and roll, not necessarily to get a shot, but to change the way that guys are positioned on the floor so he can get low post position. Obviously, you want to throw him lob passes. He's got to be active defensively and creating havoc, and he's got to do a better job when he's defending Karl-Anthony Towns. So when Towns has got the ball out behind the three-point line, Wemby needs to give more space. Give more space and allow him to shoot the three and contest with your length, and don't allow him to drive right by you and get easy buckets because, you're up too close, being too aggressive. The other issue, too, and the reason why Wemby's going to have to do a good job on Towns is when they put the smaller guys on him, their wing players, Towns was able to take advantage on the offensive glass, and he got some big-time putbacks in that game, which helped spark their comeback in that third quarter. So keep an eye on Wemby. His play, his determination, his mindset is going to go a long way to determining game number 2. And for the Spurs, this is a must-win. Because we all know if they lose this game and go down 2-0 after dropping back-to-back home games, they're not coming back to win the series. Because you'd have to win 4 of the next, 5 games? With the majority of those being in New York? That's not going to happen. So they've got to do a better job of, making sure that Wemby's involved and that Wemby, when he's defending Towns, that he wins those battles. Towns won the matchup on Monday or on Wednesday in game 1. Outside of that, De'Aaron Fox has got to do a better job in the mid-range and just a better job in general, but he's got to make shots. And the Spurs as a whole did not make shots. It's a lot of open looks that went off the iron in game 1. They're going to have to do a better job offensively. And I think they got some actions and stuff that they're going to be able to utilize to do that. But they need De'Aaron Fox to be a factor. He was a factor in game 1, but it was the wrong type of factor. He was a negative. And he's got to be a shot maker. Outside of that, I think for the Knicks, just continue to do what you're doing. Look to push the pace, put the pressure on San Antonio. Fatigue is still probably a factor right now. So anytime you have a chance to push the pace and get up court before San Antonio has a chance to set their defense, it's going to give them a better opportunity to score. But Karl-Anthony Towns he's the key matchup. Jalen Brunson's going to do what he does. But Karl-Anthony Towns cannot win that matchup with Wemby the way he did in game number 1. But the Knicks are playing with such confidence right now. The way they're moving the basketball, the way that Karl-Anthony Towns is playing with confidence and facilitating, scoring, rebounding, and setting up his teammates. Jalen Brunson showing the toughness, battling back from getting his knee tricked up a little bit in game 1 and finishing strong in the fourth quarter. And the Spurs, as poorly as they played, they still almost won the game. I mean, that's probably my big takeaway for San Antonio. It's like, yeah, you blew the 14-point lead in the third, but you were right there with a chance to win the game, and it just got away with you in the last couple of minutes of the game. But they were right there. So knowing that they have a lot of different things they can do better, they got to have some confidence. But most importantly, I want San Antonio to win because I want a long and compelling series, and I know that if New York wins game 2 and goes back home up 2-0, that the series is probably going to be pretty short. So we'll see how things shake out tonight. But, boy, man, the Knicks are playing with confidence. 12 straight wins, and most of them by double digits. I mean, playing with confidence, playing with purpose, and sharing the basketball. Everyone's making an impact. And I think, too, that, the younger guards, Castle and Harper, the guys who are on the floor, they got a bit of an education. It's, when you're playing grown men and guys with experience, maybe it takes a game for San Antonio to adjust. And that's what I like about, 7-game series in the NBA playoffs. I like seeing the chess match, the adjustments, what type of wrinkles can be thrown in. How are the Spurs going to change the way they match up with Towns? What are they going to do to free up some of their guys, their shooters on offense, to get better looks and have more of an impact? And then what do the Knicks do? Are they going to continue to play the way that we've seen? What a run they're on. Very impressive. Whew. And on fire, too. And I love the role players. Landry Shamet continuing to be on fire. He was big in game one. Mitchell Robinson continuing to make an impact, showing strength. So this is going to be good. But I want a long series, so let's hope the Spurs find a way to scratch out a victory tonight. If you have not watched any of the Stanley Cup Final, tomorrow I would recommend turning into Game 3 and checking some of it. Last night's Game 2 was awesome. Carolina stormed back in the game in the third period with just under 10 minutes to go. They were down 2-0, and then all of a sudden they're up 3-2. Vegas with a late goal to tie the game and force overtime. And then you had the drama of the overtime period, and then Carolina cashed in on another power play opportunity. Fun. They play hard. It's intense, and the atmosphere there in the arena in Carolina at the Lenovo Center was great, and it's going to be awesome when they shift scenes for the Game 3 in Vegas tomorrow. All right, 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. 503-248-0620. Dan Campbell, head coach of the Lions, love him. Always very open and honest. He was asked about the Myles Garrett deal. Take a listen.
Yeah, I mean, good for them. They've won it now, right? I honestly and they're two totally different players. That was two totally different players. That was what they felt like they needed to do, and good for them, man.
There you go. That's Campbell. He's like, hey, they've won it. Give them the trophy now. How often have we seen that in the NFL where it's like the team that wins the offseason, never seems to really get over the hump in the regular season? That upcoming season is not going to be quite what we thought it was going to be when they made all the moves. But there's no doubt that the Myles Garrett addition is, that's a problem. He is a big-time problem to deal with. And if you're Mike McDonald or Kyle Shanahan, you're like, great. Really looking forward to seeing that guy twice a year. Really looking forward to it. But I like Myles Garrett, man. That guy is ultra productive. 23 sacks last year. There were a couple of games where he's just like, I'm going to take over. We're done here. I'm going to take over and just create havoc. And he did. Impressive. And we'll talk to Brian Noe about that. Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio, will join us next. We'll get his take on the NBA Finals, which are going to get underway here at 5:30, Game 2. This right here is St. Elmo's Fire from John Parr. As we continue to roll through the music soundtracks. All right, Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio. Hope you're enjoying your Friday. You want to jump on board, 503-248-0620. If you got a request, you can reach out. You can also find me on social media at Chad and Rip City. You got the Rip City Drive.
Alert.
All right, where's my guy from Fox Sports Radio, the one, the only Brian Bino? What's up, brother?
Chad Doing, what is going on, buddy? We got game 2 of the finals going on over here. We got NFL news. It's a great time to be alive.
It is a great time to be alive. When did the New York Knicks become so likable? Isn't that bizarre?
Gosh, it's weird. Like, once the Knicks become likable, their fan base makes them instantly unlikable. I don't know what it is. I have to grab this text I sent Arnie Spanier. So Arnie's worked at Fox Sports Radio for a long time, Knicks fan, and I sent him a text. I'm like, you don't really believe the Knicks are going to win it all, right? And he's like, it's their year. This was, I don't know, the second round of the playoffs or something like that. And it's like, I halfway love Knicks fans and I halfway hate Knicks fans. So this is what I texted him, Chad. See if you agree with this. I texted Arnie, I halfway love Knicks fans. Awesome passion, total diehards, live and die with their team. I love that. They really are. They're not fair weather fans at all. And I put, I halfway hate Knicks fans, constantly overreacting, totally irrational, dorky superstitions, lunatic levels of optimism. So, like, I don't know what to do with them. I'm halfway very happy for their fan base finally enjoying some success, and I halfway hope they lose 4 in a row and come back down to earth a little bit here. So I'm torn on this one.
Yeah, it's so interesting. 12 straight wins, and most of them by double digits. They've been very impressive. I guess what really blew me away in Game 1 is all of the matchups that probably favored New York going in. They all came to fruition in Game 1, but what really stood out to me was Karl Anthony Towns. Wemby's got to do a better job of defending him. And going into the series, we knew that more than likely they were going to put Wemby on Josh Hart and allow some of the other wings, like maybe Vassell or Champagnie, somebody else to draw Karl Anthony Towns. But the problem is he won those matchups. They got to put Wemby on him. And Wemby was so aggressive defending Towns out behind the three-point line. He's able to put the ball on the floor and drive and get easy buckets. And with the smaller guys, he made an impact on the offensive glass. Like, they've got to solve the Karl Anthony Towns issue, and I think it all starts with Wemby's mindset, right? When they've played well in the postseason, he's made an effort and been dominant in the paint on both ends. He wasn't in Game 1, and once again, it was a problem for the Spurs. What'd you see?
Yeah, it's the thing with Cat that's really interesting, and I agree with you about Wemby, because Wemby closed out hard on Cat.
Yeah.
And Cat just put his head down and attacked the rim and had a lot of success doing so. He made quick decisions, so the thing that's impressive about Cat to me is he's really changed up his style from series to series, where a couple of series he's playing point center, and he's very, very passive offensively in terms of looking for his own shot or attacking the rim or anything. It's like he'll just stand there and put the ball out like a Harlem Globetrotter and just stand there and wait for someone to cut to the basket or get open, and he's done a phenomenal job of setting up his teammates. He really didn't do that much in Game 1. He was looking to score. He was like, oh, I can get a step on you. I'm going to do that. You're going to close out hard on me and maybe try to prevent some of the point center stuff. Okay, cool. I can just attack the rack and do it that way. So he's done a great job of really just taking what the defense gives him. We give Jokic so much credit for being so smart in finding that balance of facilitating, getting others involved, and then just doing it himself. And I think Cat has done a really good job changing it up from series to series. You saw a little bit more of that aggression offensively. And this game might be a little bit different. He might look to pass it a little bit more than he did in Game 1, but he's had success doing both in this postseason.
So how do you see it as a Spurs fan coming out of Game 1 where we're in trouble, we blew a 14-point lead in the third quarter, and the Knicks are on fire? Or do you look at it and say, hey, we didn't play our best game. We still had a chance to win the game, and we missed a lot of open looks that we normally make?
Yeah, I think they're still a very confident team. I really look at that game. It got away from them at the end, Chad. Those final 2 minutes, it's crazy that the Knicks won by double digits. That's just insanity right there. But I really think not everybody will agree with this, but the Spurs were on a 9-0 run. The Knicks had missed maybe 10 shots in a row.
Yeah.
And Brunson getting that offensive rebound. OG missed a three. It was a long rebound. And Brunson kept it alive, eventually hit an open three-pointer. And that started everything for the Knicks. I think if they don't get that long rebound from Brunson, I don't think they win that game.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I don't know that they pull it out. And even if you think they still would have won the game, it would have been an absolute nail-biter, man. We're talking a minute and a half to go in the game, Maybe the Spurs on the next trip down, they score. It's a 3-point lead, maybe a 4-point lead. I just don't think the Knicks win that game. So as badly as the Spurs closed it out and the Knicks go on that 11-0 run, it was like this close. And I know it's radio, but my index finger is that real close to my thumb right there, like real close. Where the Spurs were right there and easily could have won that game. They didn't. But it's all that to say, going into game 2, you can't play the shoulda, coulda, woulda game. But feeling confident about your chances in game 2 and the rest of the series, I think the Spurs should feel very confident going forward.
Knick fans very happy about Jalen Brunson right now. And there's this conversation go around about who the best NBA free agent signing of all time is. I don't know if you put Brunson at the top of the list, but let me give you a few of the guys who are there, names that are mentioned with this, and we'll see what you think. Shaquille O'Neal, when he was signed by the Lakers back in '96, Jerry West lured him away from Orlando, and that resulted in 3 championships. LeBron taking his talents to South Beach, getting 2 titles with the Heat. Obviously, Kevin Durant, back-to-back titles, back-to-back finals MVPs with the Warriors when they had that cap spike in 2016. Steve Nash, when he left Dallas and signed that $69 million deal with the Suns, which resulted in not a championship, but an MVP season. And, of course, you got Jalen Brunson. For me, I'm taking Shaq because I look at the titles, and that was a three-peat that resulted in that maneuver by Jerry West. But all of those names, very significant. What do you think about that list?
Yeah, I would have to agree with you with Shaq because he didn't only win 3 titles. He was the finals MVP every time. He was so dominant at that time of his career.
Yep.
And listen, Brunson has done an amazing job, but there is, when there's you grade on a curve in school, we're grading on a Knicks curve here, man. Like, let's slow our roll just a little.
But that's the hype of New York, right?
Yeah,
yes.
Right. He hasn't even won the first one. He's done a sensational job, but can we find the balance of not overreacting and still giving him the credit he deserves?
Not from Knick fans.
Right. It's crazy, man. This is the best free agent signing of all time. How many rings? Not any yet, but maybe one if they beat the Spurs. It's like, talk to me when they've won one at least. This is not better than Shaq. It's not better than LeBron yet.
Yeah.
It could be, but not yet. It's like the end of Gladiator. Not yet. Not yet.
Not
right?
yet.
Like great ending of the movie.
That's a great movie.
Fantastic.
That was pretty awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to game 2 tonight. I wanted to read this to you because this is part of the NFL news. It's never good when players on the team that you love, the Denver Broncos, are involved in police reports. But this here coming from Mike Kliss, who covers the Broncos, according to the arrest affidavit, Jonathan Cooper and his girlfriend were arguing over cheating allegations in his apartment. She admitted that she grabbed Cooper's phone from him and threw it across the room, then picked it up to go through it, the affidavit said. Cooper then got into a physical struggle with her, grabbed her arm, and took his phone back, according to the affidavit. She then tried to take the phone back, and Cooper braced his neck against her neck to prevent her from getting his phone. After the physical struggle was over, Cooper admitted that he told her he was going to break her phone if she did not leave the apartment, and that he bit her phone when she did not leave, causing disabling damage. Now, I've got to be honest with you. I've never heard of someone biting a cell phone to cause damage. That's a new one for me.
Wow. Yeah, it is. Well, listen, if that's where it ended, then great. I was bracing for impact right there. I was hoping it wasn't going to get too crazy. But
yeah, because
that's
when
a
you
new
see
one. Yeah.
When you see Jonathan Cooper or insert any athlete's name arrested, then you're like, oh, great, what's going on? But then you read the report and you're like, this is just a disagreement. So I was very happy to read that. But, crazy, but I think they're going to be okay here probably.
Yeah, man, what kind of it's funny, I was in Vegas over the last week, and I went out to dinner with Crack, Bill Krakenberger.
Krakenberger, baby. Love him.
Professional sports bettor. And it's funny because Crack, he knows all these people, so we were out to eat. There was some guy who was a former UFC fighter, super interesting guy. He was there with his wife. They both live in Hawaii. And so they have these 3 dogs. I cannot remember the breed for the life of me, Chad. They're showing me pictures. These dogs are like mini horses. They're enormous. And they're like, oh, if an animal shows up on our property, it's dead. Like, it has no chance. And they were telling me the biting force? Something like that. Like the bite force of a pit bull is like 350 or something like this. Whatever these dogs are, whatever breed, it was in the 700s. They're like, they could just snap your arm in 2 if they wanted to. And so it was this whole thing, like, the Jonathan Cooper story just made me think of the bite force, right? What kind of bite force did Jonathan Cooper have over there?
I want to know. I want to know if he measures up to the dogs. Does he? We got to find that out. I think that's very interesting. Those type of stories are always bizarre to me. And, domestic disputes, if there's nothing, if it doesn't get physical, like we've all been in our own home, like some of the disputes you get into over the silly stuff, like it can look ridiculous when you put it on paper. But I mean,
right.
How many athletes have dealt with someone trying to go through their phone because they think they might be cheating on them? I would imagine that's a fairly regular occurrence, I would guess.
I would imagine so. Yes, right. You're on the road. I know you were with whatever, and it just goes downhill from there. And I'm sure.
Hey,
I'm sure, and some women are right on point. Like there are plenty. They've been cheating with many people, and they just want to get answers. But at least it sounds like it didn't get physical, which is obviously very, very.
That's
good.
the most important thing. By the way, did you know you can bet on Trump, who's going to be at Game 3 at Madison Square Garden, whether or not he's going to be booed? More cheers or boos?
See, like, how are you going to gauge that? You know what I mean? Like, if
I'm going to put money down, I want to
sportsbook.
know how they're going to determine that. I got to make sure I don't get cheated.
Right, like that's the thing. Will the Spurs score over 100 points? There's no way to game the system. You know what I mean? Like they either do or they don't.
Yeah.
But unless it's obvious, am I supposed to believe whatever sports book is like? I know you had boos, but I thought there were more cheers. And you're like, that was 75-25 at best, you know, or at worst. So I don't know about that one, Chad. Unless it's completely clear cut. I wouldn't fork down any cash on that one.
What do you think about the game tonight? The Spurs right now a 6.5-point favorite. Usually the home team, then when they drop the first game, they bounce back in the second game. But the Knicks are red hot with 12 in a row. Where's the value at tonight with this point spread? How do you think the game's going to shake out?
I think the value is, if you're like me and expect a Spurs bounce back, I wouldn't lay 6.5 before the game tips off. I would wait a little bit. Right, the Knicks have been so hot, 12 straight playoff wins, which is insane. Like plus 272, like in the point differential over these 12 games. That's insane. So I would believe there's got to be a point in the game, most likely, first quarter, first half. Maybe the Knicks have a little bit of a lead. They're up by 3 points. All of a sudden, the Spurs aren't favored by 6.5. If you can wait for a better number. Maybe the Spurs are favored by 2.5. Maybe, the Knicks have a second half lead and the Spurs are favored just barely. I would rather wait for a spot like that, thinking it's pretty likely we would get there. That you're gonna I would put it this way. I would wager money right now that you will get a better line than minus 6.5 if you want to back the Spurs.
Yeah.
I would just wait until the game starts. And I would be shocked if you don't get a better number at some point during the game.
Yeah. And a lot of times, a lot of people I know will do that, where they'll wait until the favorite gets down by, 6 to 8 points early, and then they'll jump on it when they're getting better value, which is a smart way to do it if you don't like the current number at 6.5. That's not a bad play.
Yeah, it's not bad. And look, if you really want to back the Spurs no matter what, I don't think it's terrible to lay 6.5 right now. It's dangerous because of how hot the Knicks have been. But I do expect the Spurs to punch back. If you don't want to wait, you're not much of an in-game bettor. I get it, but I think you should be. I think you need to have that door open.
Yeah.
If you're a sports bettor, and it's really likely you're going to get a better number than 6.5, why wouldn't you wait a little bit? Just be a little bit patient, and I think you're going to get, even if it's minus 4.5, you're telling me you don't want 2 points in your back pocket? I would want all the points in my back pocket if possible.
We're talking with Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio here on the Rip City Drive. If you were the Rams and Sean McVay, would you reach out to Aaron Donald just to gauge interest in coming back next year to join Myles Garrett? Like, even if he wants to come back on a part-time basis to be a situational pass rusher, is that worth the call?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And McVay has said he's had, like a very brief preliminary talk with Aaron Donald. And, yeah, absolutely. This guy, what is he, at 35 right now, Chad? Right around that age?
Yep. And
that
healthy.
Dude is in phenomenal shape.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the wear and tear for the last handful of seasons. He would still be a just galactic pain for offensive linemen left and right in the league.
Oh, my gosh.
And especially with Myles Garrett
next
to him. Oh, man, what a way to come back and potentially win another Super Bowl. And
yeah.
Oh, man, like that would be pretty cool. I mean, I guess he could come back and get hurt, and they don't win a championship, and he didn't ride off into the sunset this time like he did the first time. You know what I mean? So I guess he'd have to weigh that, but the guy is in fantastic shape. I have no doubt that he would still be incredibly effective, even at his age. So I'm rooting for him to come back. I would love it. The NFL fan in me would absolutely love to see Aaron Donald on the same defensive line as Myles Garrett. Think about the fearsome foursome, right? We go back to the old school Rams right there. If we had those two on the same D-line, that would be fantastic.
That's pretty awesome. What I like about the trade, it's far be it for me to give the Browns credit, but I think this is a case where I like the trade from the standpoint that I think it's the Browns recognizing where they're at as a franchise and getting good value in return for Garrett so they can stockpile picks to eventually get their quarterback. And for the Rams, you've got Matthew Stafford. He is a ready-to-win-now quarterback. And you look at your roster, you're like, let's go out and do everything we can to get another championship. So I think both teams recognizing it, getting what they want, and it could end up being one of those deals where it's a win for both.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. And I get it. I get it where the Browns, they're going to have their new stadium in a couple of years, and they have to have their quarterback of the now and the future, right? And so that's what a trade like this can put them in position to do. You can package picks and move up if you need to, but you got to get a top-flight quarterback. And listen, there are busts at the top of each draft, but your chances of finding a franchise quarterback are probably better at the top of the draft than like in round 5. You know what I mean? Like even at the bottom of the first round. You just look at the NFL and a lot of the starters, it's like, okay, former first overall pick, former first overall pick, former top 5 pick. There are a lot of guys that are first round picks at least, right? So I think the Browns are in a decent position to find their quarterback, and they have to get that solved. It's like Myles Garrett is fantastic. The Browns are 5-12 last season. If you don't have a quarterback, it doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
So I think it's a smart move for the Browns to put themselves in position to find a franchise quarterback. And for the Rams, they're in absolute go-for-it mode. There's no doubt about that. So it's still head-scratching that they went with Ty Simpson along the way. I wonder if they made the move and traded for Myles Garrett before the draft.
Yeah.
If they're still taking Ty Simpson 13th overall.
It's
that
a great
we'll
point.
Never know, right?
I know.
Yeah.
You know what's amazing, too, and I'm sure you've seen this floating around, but since 2016, so we're talking like a decade, the Rams have 3 first-round picks. Jared Goff, who they traded away for Matthew Stafford. Jared Verse, who they just traded away for Myles Garrett. The only existing first-round pick in the last decade for the Rams is Ty Simpson. And yet here they are, odds-on favorite to win the championship. That's crazy to me.
Wow, that is crazy. So it's not just F them picks, it's trade them picks, right?
F and trade, yeah.
Yeah, F and trade them picks. We got to add that in there, yeah. Parentheses or something. We got to update
That's
that.
not, you know what's crazy is that normally being a sustainable franchise means drafting, developing, and making sure that you take care of those assets. But the Rams are like, dude, we will mortgage the future at any point in time if we think we have a chance to win. Crazy.
Yeah, and look, man, that's all that matters. At the end of the day, it's how many rings do you have?
Yeah.
And if you mortgage the future for the 2026 season, no one cares if you win it all, right? Like, no one cares what your record was.
Right.
They really went downhill in 2028.
No one cares.
Really rough 2029. You don't even remember it, right? You're just counting the rings. That's it.
You know what's wild, too? We're talking about the Rams last year. It goes back to that Thursday night football game in Seattle.
Oh, dude.
If the Hawks don't get that ridiculous 2-point conversion where everyone thought the play was dead, the Rams win, get home field, and they win the Super Bowl. That's how crazy it is.
I know it. It went from the Rams would have had 2 home playoff games, and the Seahawks would have had 3 road playoff games. I do not see the Seahawks winning a Super Bowl if that's their path. And I got to go back and look, Chad, because that pass from Darnold, where it was the second 2-point conversion, right?
Uh-huh.
The pass that hit the Rams player's helmet and then bounced into the end zone. I don't know if that was Jared Verse. How crazy would it be if that? I don't know. I'd have to go back and look, but it was either
it might
Verse.
Be Jared Verse.
Right? That'd be crazy if it was.
I still think, looking back now that we know the season, like I still think that game, that Thursday night game was the the most wild and yet the most significant in determining the Super Bowl champion. That's how crazy that Thursday night game in Seattle was.
It really was. And for the Rams to be up by 16.
Yes. And give up 3 2-point conversions.
Yes. They give up a pair.
Oh
they even took the lead in overtime, and they still couldn't win
They
the
went
game.
straight down the field and scored a touchdown.
Yeah.
And the Seahawks are like, whatever, we'll just go
you're
down
right.
and score.
So you're right. There are 3 of them, right? They did it in overtime as well. Crazy.
And I
that's
watch
why-
teams that have no clue throughout the whole season how to convert a 2-point conversion. The Seahawks got 3 in one game.
That's insane, right? And that's why you look at the defensive upgrades, Myles Garrett, right? Trent McDuffie from the Chiefs, Jalen Watson from the Chiefs, like addressing the secondary and getting Myles Garrett. It's like, all right, it's going to make it a lot tougher for teams to score touchdowns and get 3 2-point conversions on us here.
Yeah, because the Rams, and you know this, like, I mean, if you look at their roster, the only thing you could poke holes in was the secondary, right? Outside of that, they were solid, but now they've addressed that. And, yeah, I expect the Rams, that division, 49ers healthy, Seahawks defending champs. They brought back their guys. They have continuity, and you got the Rams now who acquired Myles Garrett. Like, the NFC West is legit.
How about the Arizona Cardinals, man? Someone put a tweet out there where it was something along the lines of the Rams just traded for Myles Garrett and the Arizona Cardinals are in a contract controversy with Jacoby Brissett. You know, that's where that's
That
at,
sums
right?
everything up. What a disaster of a franchise. That's why Kurt Warner taking the Cardinals to the Super Bowl, whether they won it or not, that's Hall of Fame worthy in its own right.
Absolutely.
The Cardinals, they're one of those franchises like the Browns, like the Clippers. They've been garbage most of my life, Brian.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And yeah, to even get there for that franchise, that's a major accomplishment.
Oh,
and they probably should have won that game. Like the James Harrison pick 6 for 100 yards, helping me win my first half.
Oh my gosh!
Steelers
you got
bet.
it. That was it. You had a first half on the Steelers.
I did. Yeah.
Nice.
So that I cashed based on that. That was insane. And Obama mentioning the Steelers in the pregame chat, so I hit that. and the Steelers money line. So that was beautiful. I was 3-0 in that game and had no business winning any of those bets.
Well, I'm sorry that you're gonna have to deal with all of your New York coworkers at Fox Sports Radio, because if the Knicks win the title, and you know this, we're never gonna hear the end of it for the rest of time.
We're not. And it's because I grew up in South Bend, Indiana. It's crawling with Cubs fans, right? Chicago Cub fans. Chad, every year, there were some horrible years. They were terrible, right? This is going to be our year. The drought's over. It's like, you're an idiot. It's not going to happen. When I did radio in Fresno, a lot of Raider fans there. Chad, there were years they were going to be 3-13, 2-14 every year, like clockwork. This is our year, going to win it all. It's like, you're not going to be close. So it's like in me with Knick fans where it's like,
they're crazy.
Gosh,
let me ask you a question real quick. How devastated would you be today as a Bears fan knowing that your team's about to move to Northwest Indiana?
Yeah, that's kind of it's a weird deal, right?
And are you going to adopt the Bears as your team now that they're going to move to Indiana?
Oh no!
Okay.
No! I'm too far gone. Like I'm fins up all the way, man.
Okay.
Like that's just not.
I
gonna
respect
change.
that.
Unless I, have a kid who plays for the Bears, and then I'll root for the Bears. But short of that, no, it's fins up. But yeah, it's crazy where, it's I don't know. You could talk yourself into it. Will they still be named the Chicago Bears? I can't get my head around them being named something else.
Oh, that would be a travesty.
It's like, look at the Angels. Look how far away they are from L.A. And they just brand themselves as the L.A. Angels, right?
Yeah, that's fraudulent. It's like,
it
what
is
are you doing
totally
here?
fraudulent. But I would expect them to still be named the Chicago Bears, and it's like, whatever. It's like the Giants playing New Jersey. The Jets do the same thing. It wouldn't bother me too much. It's a little weird, but not too much.
All right, Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio. Well, hey, enjoy your weekend. Enjoy Game 2 of the finals tonight, and we'll catch up soon. You're the best, brother.
All right, Chad Doing. Always great catching up with you, man. Hope you have a great weekend and enjoy the hoops.
Yeah.
Yes, tonight and throughout the series, man. Should be a good one.
Love it. Bino! All right, we'll come back. You got the Rip City Drive on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. All right, big thanks to Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio, for joining the show. And right now, first quarter in San Antonio, 8:29 to play in the opening period. And San Antonio right now on top 13-10. And so far, it's been a highly contested first quarter of play. So, we're in store for what should be a good series. And both teams being very aggressive on defense. They're letting them play a little bit so far tonight. So we'll see how things continue to shake out. They're allowing a lot of contact, big-time contact. No question about it. Wow. Love it. Love it. Love the intensity. Playoff basketball is so much better, just like playoff hockey. Michael Shacker hanging out at Moda Center right now, getting ready for the Portland Fire. And so tomorrow we'll get Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Finals. But just a reminder that the NBA Finals, we're not going to get Game 3 until Monday night. So they'll travel to New York, and then they'll get Saturday, Sunday off, 2 days off before they play Game 3. And, of course, the format for the finals, not what it used to be, 2-3-2. It's now 2-2-1-1-1. So we'll go back and forth between New York and San Antonio until the series is decided. And there you have it. Other than that, just keeping an eye on the forecast. I'll be out at Willamette Valley Country Club tomorrow and Sunday for the tournament. Looking forward to that. Had a chance to play with a really nice gentleman today. Moved over here from Kauai. And he and his family live out here now. I think he said he worked at Frito-Lay. But he was the perfect playing partner for golf because he's definitely an island guy with a very perfect energy, like laid back and chill. And so he was great company, and I think we're going to play again. But it was really nice to meet him. Leaf was his name. Great dude. Great dude. That island energy is just, it's a different ballgame. 100%. All right, 15-10 Spurs, 7:26 to go first quarter. And we'll see how things shake